Good afternoon. Here we are again. Wealth Creation Show, episode 33, and one of the best ones yet. This is the rich versus the wealthy. Which one's better? Who's going to win? As Harry always said, we're going to sort this. There's going to be a fight.
Yeah, I think it's quite good to look at them and the difference between the actual difference between them. A lot of people don't really realise the difference between being wealthy and being rich, and there is a lot of differences. And looking at over the last few days leading up to today's conversation, I think it's quite an interesting topic. And
I'll tell you what, most people are actually encouraged to be rich all their life. And the reason why is the classic example. It's what we've taught from youth. This really gets to me. Something, you know, get a job, get a good education, stick in at school, go to university, take out student debt, get a job after that. Maybe a job that you can't even get because it's no longer there because you've trained for that job. That happens a lot. You know, the world is full of educated idiots, as I say. And a lot of them actually don't have a job as well. And I used to house a lot of them as well. And it's like, what? I mean, you've got a university education from St Andrews Uni. This is one guy I knew. And it's like you're living on benefits, basically. I didn't get that at all. And then, so you've got all that student debt. And then I tell you what, come out of there, get a good job, start paying off the student debt, but get a mortgage and buy a house. That's exactly what I do as well. So you get even more debt. And I tell you what, you need a new car. Let's get more debt for you there as well. You know, the person that wins out of this all the time is the banks. Banks, every single time. And this is to get you indoctrinated into a system. And I'm going to be completely cynical here, Richard, as I usually am. This is to get you indoctrinated into a system of be a good worker ant. Because once you're locked into that so-called hamster wheel, you can't get off. There is no way out of that because you've got the debt for the house, you've got the debt for the student debt, you've got the debt for your car, and therefore choices disappear before your eyes. It's things like, for example, I want to go back to college or I want to go back to university because I feel I want to retrain. Well, I'm sorry, you can't do that because you have to still pay all these bills and all that debt you've taken on. So I think that's the rich way. That's definitely the rich way. We'll talk about the difference between rich and wealthy. It really does. I don't think people actually really understand the difference between rich and wealthy. Rich pays taxes. Wealthy doesn't. I'll say that again. Rich pays taxes. Wealthy doesn't. Now, you want to be really wealthy, and I'll tell you why. Richard, what is the difference? You know, from your point of view, what do you think the difference is between the two concepts?
Yeah, I mean, I was a wee bit surprised at some of the facts that I was uncovering about the differences between rich and wealthy, just because you didn't think it like that. But I mean, being rich means that you have a lot of money, obviously, and you've got a lot of money coming out. But obviously, it doesn't really mean that you're wealthy, because being wealthy is not only having enough money to meet your needs, but it's being able to afford maybe not to work if you don't want to. It's all about amassing assets if you're wealthy, whereas you're rich, you've got a lot of money, you've got a lot of outgoings, and you spend a lot. And like you say, there's a lot of tax involved in that as well.
Yeah, here's a classic. What does it mean to be rich then? Well, if you want to know more what rich means, then I think personally you want to think about those popular people like footballers, like rappers, Hollywood superstars. Sometimes it seems that they're screaming the words out, I'm rich, but it's because rich is about having a lot of income. So there's the tax bit, having a lot of income, spending a lot of money. There's more tax because you get indirect taxation through there, and showing off how much money you have. We've all seen it, isn't it? You know, you buy things that you really don't need to impress people that you really don't like. What is the point of that?
Yeah, I know. And
that's how Instagram programs us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Instagram, social media, all these different platforms program us. We need to show off to people. And I often look at other people's posts now and think, well, why are you actually showing me that? That's the first thing that comes into my head now with everything. And you'll notice I appear in a lot of videos like this. But it's more content-related videos, and I very, very rarely now do a lot of selfies because I don't see why I'm needing to do it. I'm not looking for approval from anyone. I just like,
Yeah.
I've come to the conclusion that the purpose of the being here is to be content, not to be happy. Because if you try to be happy every single day, then you'll disappoint yourself some days because you'll never be happy every day. But be content with what you've got and just be that wee bit uncomfortable. We talked about what David Bowie said, just to get to that edge where you're out your depth just a wee bit, but you can touch the bottom on your tippy toes. And that's the point of where exciting things happen. And this is what we talk about in the Wealth Creation Show. So it's about, yes, being rich means you have a lot of money, but being rich doesn't necessarily mean you have a high net worth. Now, that's wealth. In fact, being rich, and I talked about this at the weekend, means you can actually be in debt as well. Yeah. And I often talk about being broke at a different level. People that have things and have plenty of money and income tend to sometimes be broke at a different level. Hands up who's ever been broke at a different level. and I think the whole audience will be saying the same thing. Sticker number 5 in the comments if you're broke at a different level, because basically being broke at a different level means you could have 100. It's like the guy that came on to Question Time and went, I don't consider myself rich. Between my wife and I, we're on £186,000 a year. I want, you what? How would that not be rich? £186,000 a year. How could you not consider yourself? That's in the top 5% money earners in Britain.
Yeah.
But I don't consider myself rich, he says. I'm gobsmacked. You've seen that. It goes about in social media, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
That means being rich could mean that you're actually in debt, doesn't it? Well, why? Well, most people who are rich...
I was going to say why.
Yeah, they spend more than earn, don't they?
Yeah.
And we've talked about things like, we did previously the how to beat the cost of living crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So if you read things like that and what people spend their money on, they actually need to be rich in order to be able to afford that debt and to be able to pay that debt. Now, there's a difference between good debt and bad debt. So like, what? There's good debt and bad debt. Because again, we have taught that debt is a bad thing. But debt is not a bad thing if you use it properly.
I think as long as it's managed correctly as well.
Yeah, well, we talked about that now. I've just paid off one of my mortgages because it's £4,000 in interest a year now. It's at 6.09%. It's like, what is the point of having that? Because the amount I'm renting that for and the amount I'm actually paying the mortgage plus the factor fees, I'm not making money on it anymore. So it's like, it makes sense for me to now pay that off. Because I believe that interest rates will go a bit higher.
Yeah.
Trust me on that. It probably will, because we're talking about inflation going up to 13%. Now they can't stop inflation. They think interest rates are going to stop inflation. It's not. The inflation's caused by the war in Ukraine. It's caused by Brexit. I don't care what anybody says out there. Every single economist says it's costing an absolute fortune. At the import and export duties and all the rest of it, and all the palaver and bureaucracy that's going on between, it's costing us an absolute fortune on pricing and the way we're doing things because of the Brexit scenario. So that's putting a hell of a lot, and the government doesn't want to admit that, obviously, because it's their fault.
I was just going to say, the people who were all for Brexit, aren't obviously going to admit that that's part of the problem.
Of course they will. Oh, it's all our fault. We voted for it. It's like, no. And I'm not being political that way. It's just a fact. Listen, this isn't political. These are facts. They're staring us right in the face. That's the reality of it. So remember, this is all about rich. So you need to, if you want to know what it is to become rich or wealthy, you need to spend less than you earn. How many people have heard the phrase, what is that? Too much month at the end of the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I lived like that in the very beginning, 30 years ago. It's like, oh my God, it's like we're running out of money. We're now on beans and chips. We can't afford the sausages this week. But that's effectively how it first started for us. It's like, we're down to steak sausages as a luxury. The way we were going, our interest rates were at 15% at that time for mortgages. So that shows you where it's going. So build a positive net worth. I mean, it really does mean spend less than you actually earn. Here's a classic example. Somebody that we knew about. I heard the story, and we'll never forget this story. When he was a teenager, he met one of his parents' friends. He was a former American baseball star, and yet when he was playing baseball, he was 30 years old. He was earning $4 million a year, and he was considered to be the next superstar. Then guess what? An ankle injury put him out of the game, and he was forced to retire at 34-year-old. 4 years later. Now we've seen this in footballers, haven't we? And now he's 40. He and his wife are driving £200,000 Ferraris. They're living in a £3 million mansion. They're earning $30,000 a year from a lawn mowing business. But they buy their 16-year-old daughter. They bought their 16-year-old daughter a £60,000 car, which she crashed in the first week. and you know what? They're broke. And folk will go, wait a minute, if you see that on Instagram, you would immediately think these people are minted. Yeah. But they're actually broke. They're
just going to say that. Sorry,
they're
it's
about
just
to file for bankruptcy.
Yeah, see, and that's what, like you say about social media and Instagram and all the rest of it. And I think society has people driven to the rich mentality, like, oh, we need to have all these assets that you just said, like houses and cars, and do you know what I mean? And flaunt it and show it all. But really, they're all living in a deficit, and they're now, obviously, like you say, they're going to be bankrupt soon. So rich people, like you say, more than likely are in debt and heading to be in a situation where they're going to end up bankrupt, or do you know what I mean? They're not keeping up with the spending's not keeping up with what they're bringing in.
Yeah. I'm looking back at my conversation because I had a conversation with somebody recently who actually is. I'm trying to see what he said to me there, and I'll tell you what. I was scratching my head thinking, how the hell does that happen to someone? No, I can't see it. Okay, so
I had put some examples in there, Jim.
The story. No, this was the story. This guy actually contacted me last week, and he earns £60,000 a year, but he can't get a property to buy because he's a previous bankrupt.
Right.
But my thought process, he's always earned that apparently. So my thought process is this is exactly the same about people that are rich. It's like, how could you earn £60,000 a year and file for bankruptcy? I mean, in my mind, that does not compute. But that's effectively what we're talking about here. It's rich people tend to buy things that they don't need to impress people they don't like.
Yeah.
And they always want to be one better than everybody else. And for me, I think that comes back to more about, not about the fact that you can't handle your money. It's a psychological process. It's something that's happened in your journey so far that has made you believe that if you have this and acquire these things, and I'll just call them things because that'll take into account everything, then you'll be a lot better as a result of it. And people will be more impressed about you. And then that then thinks, so what is it you're needing approval for? That you're doing this? I did it at the weekend, and still one of my friends was actually extremely successful. I posted the Lamborghini Countach.
I've seen that, obviously.
I put that on my social media, and I took a photograph in London, and I looked at it, and I thought, it's a pile of shite, to be honest. But at that time, I tell you what, it was the car to have, and I had that on my wall, and I dreamed about this car when I was a wee boy, and I thought, one of these days I'm going to have a Lamborghini Countach, and this guy actually came on and said, again, very successful. I would consider him a really successful friend. He said, I can't get my head around the fact that why would you keep denying yourself and do this delayed gratification? And I went, well, it's not a case of denial. I think it's more a case that once you get to a certain point in your life, you think it's not really worth it anymore. It's like, why?
Your perspective changes, and your mindset, I think, changes through life anyway.
It's Billy Connolly said it. He said he was always a socialist, and then all of a sudden he became a Tory. And it's like, and he says, and folk get, how could you do that? And he says, but my thought process changed over the years, and that's what happens to people. You just because you wanted it when you were a child, it doesn't mean to say you've got to have it now. you know, I wanted to be a policeman, but thank God I never got in. or this would be a different show, wouldn't it? This show would never exist. I would never be where I am. I'd still be in the forces, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a frightening thought. 2 inches, not 2 inches here, by the way. 2 inches up here.
Is that why you're with your hair?
Determined my future. Aye, that was with my hair at that time. 2 inches determined my future because you had to be 6 foot to be in the forces, or I think it was like, I'm sure it was 6 foot, and I was 5'10", or it was maybe borderline. It was meant to be 5'10", but I was 5'9.5", and they went, "No, you can't get in." And I breathed a sigh of relief. I didn't have anybody there that felt sorry for me at that time and thought, "I will just let you in," because it could have been a completely different story the way my life panned out. So thank God to that person that rejected me from the police force, because I would never be where I am today because of that. So see how I've actually embraced the fact that I've got rejection, and that rejection has led me to where I am right now. So rejection is never to be feared. It's a sign that you need to move in a different direction.
Yeah.
And that is okay. That's all part of it. I mean, you let's get back to wealth. You cannot build wealth if you spend more than you earn. Now, if you don't believe me, I mean, let's talk about some personal stories then, Richard.
Yeah, put some examples in there.
What personal stories about some celebrities and lifestyles do you have?
Yeah, I think the most shocking one, which a lot of people are probably aware of, is the Michael Jackson story. Now, we all know that Michael Jackson was extremely successful, extremely famous, had a lot of money, but and obviously his Neverland Ranch. Now, that cost $10 million, and obviously he's in America, a year to operate his Neverland Ranch. And he was sitting by the end, I think probably by the end of his life, or at some point just before they unfortunately died, in $400 million of debt. Now that's not that far off $500 million.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
It is crazy, but you've got to remember, this is a wee boy that grew up with no sense of money, doesn't understand money, doesn't know how to manage money, doesn't know how to do anything like that at all. And he's always relied on everybody else to do that for him. And I kind of think to myself that all these entourage round about him was basically, you know, for want of a better phrase, parasites.
Yeah.
You know, they'll basically bleed him dry.
It's like the Britney Spears story. Do you know, like?
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. Lindsay Lohan was addicted to partying addiction, and she filed for bankruptcy in 2012.
Yeah.
What about Mike Tyson?
Mike Tyson,
one of the most classic. Mike Tyson would think he was minted with the amount of money he earned. Divorce, excessive spending, etc. He was $23 million in debt. 50 Cent was another one. 50 Cent. He was excessive spending. MC Hammer was another one. MC Hammer, you can't touch this. Well, certainly we can't touch this because you've got nothing left, pal.
Yeah.
He lost everything because he spent millions upon millions on, and here we go. MC Hammer's real estate. He spent millions in real estate, but he bought the wrong real estate. He listened to the wrong people. Yeah. He didn't understand how to manage his money. And that's what happened. So as you can see, you can be super rich and super famous, but still be massively in debt. So what is the bottom line out of that?
Yeah, and I think you see a lot more, and well, I see it a lot more. I don't know how much people keep up, but you see a lot more celebrities now that they do a lot more the business side to it instead of just being famous and on the money that they make from whether it's music or, do you know what I mean? But they've got a lot more investments into things like property and real estate, obviously doing it properly, not like MC Hammer or what. And you do see that a lot more, and they're amassing huge amounts of money. I mean, everybody likes to really refer to them, but the Kardashians, look how much money the Kardashians make because they're actually quite business savvy. If you watch some of the things that they do, I mean, they maybe stand on camera and look pretty, but there's a lot behind that as well.
Right. They understand it completely. You can be rich and you can be on the verge of bankruptcy. Being rich is more about showing off your money than using the money as a tool to build long-term growth.
Yeah.
So if you're rich, you're almost likely to be broke as well.
Yeah. And that is a lot.
So you don't really want to be rich as such. You want, I mean, you do want to be rich in a context, but you don't want to be that type of rich where you're broke at a different level. I've known people that have earned hundreds of thousands of pounds, Richard, over the years, and that's their earnings, and then that's when they're going broke. This is why the guy came on and says, I don't consider myself, super rich or anything like that on £186,000 a year. It's like, my God, it's like that's 6 times the average earnings. How would you not consider yourself? Because he's probably spending more than he can actually earn. So that's the whole concept of that. I tell you, one of the most admirable persons that you won't know about, you'll never remember. Sheena Easton.
No.
See, you'll not remember Sheena Easton, but a lot of people my age will remember Sheena Easton, who sang a lot of songs from Scotland. Wee Bonnie lass from Scotland. She sang a few songs. And everybody loved Sheena Easton at the time. Then she subsequently gave up that, cashed in, went over to America, invested heavily in real estate, and she's a multi-millionaire with that money that she had. So she was rich in the beginning, but she used that money rightly and actually did the right thing with it. So Sheena Easton, and then she actually sang with Prince as well. So you got the look. She sang with Prince as well, and she was on quite a lot of Prince's songs at the time when she moved to America. So she just gave up and moved to America.
She's used her money, invested it wisely, and obviously amassed wealth. And she'll probably, because it's in property and things, she'll have a good cash flow coming through. So I mean, like, let's look at like what does it mean to be wealthy? I think, and the difference to being rich.
Oh, I love being wealthy.
Yeah, I think if you want to, like, obviously achieve financial freedom, then the chances are you want to become wealthy, because that's basically how. I mean, cash flow we talk about all the time. Will make you a wealthy person and allow you to have a lot more financial freedom. We've spoke about it in previous shows about being able to choose when you work and things like that, and having a lot more freedom.
Right. Here is the nutshell for wealth.
Yeah.
And I jokingly talk about being time lords, don't I? But wealth has everything to do with your most precious asset ever, and it's time.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with anything else. Wealth is all about time and having your time back. That's true wealth. It is the only commodity on this planet that you have. Once it's gone, it's gone. That second that just passed, we'll never get back. And I go on about every single time about people being late for appointments, and I deplore it. And it's the thing, because you're stealing my time. And my 5 minutes that you've been late now is 5 minutes I've got less with things I really want to do. And that's why it's important to me to always be on time with everybody, because I value the most important and precious commodity in the world is time. When you're on your deathbed, you're never going to say, I wish I'd done anything else other than I want more time. That's it, really. That's what it comes down to. So wealth has everything to do with the most precious asset ever, and it's time. Becoming wealthy means you have the time to do the things you want, the time to spend it with the people you love, the time to learn about the things that you want to learn about. And also, when you're wealthy, you're not living from paycheck to paycheck and salary to salary every single month. Instead, when you're wealthy, you can decide when, where you want to work, because you have the luxury just to walk away and if you don't enjoy your job. That's exactly what I did, why I did. And I retired 17 years ago, because I have that. This is what I have. I have that option. And I jokingly say it. I've said it to some people now and again. I says, God, I could sit on my beach for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I'll still have money coming in regardless, because it is never reliant on me anymore. If you're wealthy, you have what is a large net worth.
Yeah.
It's bottom line balance sheet.
Just going to say, what defines net worth?
Let me explain just roughly how, in accountancy terms.
Yeah.
Rich is your profit and loss every year. It tells you how much profit you've made. Wealthy is your balance sheet, which tells you what the company is truly worth. on the bottom line. That's assets minus liabilities. The things that you've got, material like property, minus the debt, like for example, the mortgages on that. The bottom line is your net worth. Typical example for somebody that's watching right now, it maybe has a house. If your house is worth 150, 200,000, if it's worth 200,000 right now, and you've got a mortgage of 100,000, then if that's all you've got, then your net worth is 100,000 because it's the property minus the mortgage.
Yeah.
And that's why you get a lot of people in the rich list sometimes to go up and down in the rich list, because the company sometimes doesn't make enough every year and they make a loss. Therefore, the company value goes down. Therefore, the share price goes down. Therefore, they fall out of the rich list.
Yeah.
So that's how these people work. Right. So your net worth definition, as I said, your net worth defines how much you own assets versus how much you owe liabilities. And that's exactly what I've said right there. To become wealthy, you want to amass a positive net worth. So you want to have more assets than you do have liabilities, which is the debt. So if you're wealthy, then you're likely to have a large net worth. You're likely to spend less than you earn. If you spend less than you earn, you are wealthy, regardless of if you're earning even £100 a week and you're only spending £50 a week, I would classify that as wealthy. Because immediately you're up £50 every single week, and over a year you're up £2,500 a year. You compound that over 10 years, there's £25,000. Over 20 years, there's £50,000. So your net worth is going up. That's it in simplistic terms. If you've got a bigger amount that you're making more than what you're spending, then obviously you're compounding even more, and then you invest that even more, you're even more wealthy. You want to build a long-term wealth, and you're understated, aka you don't own flashy things.
Yeah.
Look at the most successful. I mean the most successful. You know they're stinking rich, and really wealthy, and that is the Warren Buffetts and the Bill Gates and the Elon Musk.
Jeff Bezos.
I mean, and Jeff Bezos. Do you see these guys prancing about in Gucci stuff and Versace and all the rest of it? No, they don't. And I jokingly said, rich people, buy Gucci and they buy Prada and they buy Versace. Wealthy people go to Asda's and they buy George.
Yeah. It's funny you should say about it, and I think it's Elon Musk. And I think I read a thing a few weeks back, and the house that he lives in, and it's actually fairly quite modest. I mean, he's a billionaire. I mean, but he doesn't stay in some big massive mansion. He stays in quite a modest, it's in California or wherever it is, and it's really nice, obviously. And I mean, it's worth it. It's worth it. I think it's 1 point some million or something. And I thought, but he loves it, and that's where he stays.
Yeah, it's more about what you need rather than what you want. But I'll tell you, he wants things like he wants Twitter, and
he's been trying to buy that for
he wants these things. He wants to develop. He wants to be the first person to colonize another planet. He wants to have all that. So why on earth would he need? Why on earth would he want to invest all his money into something else that he doesn't need? If he wants to have the money to do that, and that's where wealth is truly built, and by investing it in the stuff that actually generates more income. Wealthy people focus on income producing assets because they buy time.
Yeah.
Buy time every single way, because it's not the money that you generate, it's the money it actually buys the time back, because then you no longer need to work more hours to earn more money for that. Wealth is all about being rich is a trading time for money. I go to work, I work an hour, I get paid a certain amount per hour. Being wealthy is not. Being wealthy is generating income. It's not relying on your time anymore. And that is property investment.
Yeah.
That is stocks and shares. In a stupidity world, it's crypto, because it still goes up in value or it goes down in value. It's gambling, folks. So, I'm only saying that, but I'm trying to emphasize the extreme example here. How you could £30,000 in, the next week because crypto's gone mental and you cash out. Well, that's if you can cash out, because some people don't let you cash out. So on paper, you think you're rich, but you're only rich until it's materialized.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, that's now income and that's now taxed. So you want to have a stable asset. You want to have assets that are stable so you can borrow on these assets because that's not taxable. And these value of these assets will still stay where they are and they won't swing up and down. Therefore, the person that lends you on that property doesn't assign, or that asset doesn't assign a higher interest rate because there's less risk involved. So they give you a lower interest rate on the lending. And that is not taxable. That is tax deductible against the wealth. And then you can build more wealth out of that. Then you can generate an income you can take out at your leisure about how you think that works for you in tax planning. And that's another story. So think about it. When you own income producing assets and earn passive income, even while you sleep, I used to jokingly say grow rich while you sleep, but effectively that's what it is. You can get up in the morning and be richer than the night before, but you've not actually done it. Well, you have done something. You have done something because what you've done is you've sown the seed, you've planted the seed, you've nurtured the seed, you've sown the seed, and you're reaping the harvest because you've got everybody else helping you now for that. And they're recompensed and remunerated for that reason. And you have all the time in the world to do what you want to do. That's why wealthy people often diversify their assets through real estate investing, through stock market investing, through investing in their business. Like I've said right now, that's what I do with 5 Properties. Invest in the business so it makes money. So a top tip here. What is a top tip that you'd want to tell people?
I think, well, like you say, Jim, one of the top tips is if you want to build long-term wealth, then your best bet is to build a business and property investment as a business. And we say that all the time. It is a functioning business. And if there is a shortcut to becoming wealthy, it has to do with building a business.
Yeah.
And like you do, setting that up and have that whole functioning, like we spoke about, and I refer to it like as a machine, and it is like a machine. And just if you've got that machine oiled and running properly, it's going to make you money. And
interestingly enough, 66% of millionaires actually own their own business.
Yeah, and that doesn't surprise me. That's what you would expect. I actually thought it'd probably be a bit more than that, to be honest.
It probably is a bit more now, but when this information was done, so it's we're kind of covering ourselves by being a bit prudent on that. But you know, most people are. I mean, a lot of people are actually inheriting as well. Remember, so you've got inheritance there where people have passed it down. So that's another statistic to be involved in that 66%. And other people are actually, you know, obviously they'll earn it because they don't run they run the business, but they're high profile, so they'll earn it as well. I mean, I think the benefit for me is a business will pay you income likely for the rest of your life, and your income earned potential is virtually unlimited since you're your own boss. But the fact of owning your own business is actually to multiply your efforts, and this is where I come back to people being time lords. And property investment and running your own business as well and being in charge of your own business means that you're actually duplicating. And I talk to you guys about as well. In order for you to earn more money, you have to find out a way to duplicate your efforts. And actually get people to do the jobs that you do a day in, day out, but now are not cost effective for you to do because you could earn a higher amount at a higher level. This goes back to my argument. I have with Elaine all the time. It's like, why do we not get a gardener to do the garden? And it's like, well, I could do it myself. And I'm like, and she's got me roped into it. And I'm like, whoa. If I can go out and earn that amount, why on earth would I want to go and do a garden? It would earn this. It would save myself this amount. Surely you would want to go out and earn that with the hours you've got, and you would then pay the gardener to do it at that rate. So you're making the differential in between.
Yeah.
Every single time. I've just multiplied my hours then, because I've now got somebody doing a job that I wouldn't do, and that allows me to go and earn more money.
Which then gives you time back.
And pay that person, so it duplicates. It gives you time. And so if you can get more and more people to duplicate your time, then you're onto a winner. Richard Branson, classic example. He talks about building a power team every single time, doesn't he? A mastermind group. People are know a lot more than him and can be a lot better at their jobs than he is. And that then leverages his position, And that's how he becomes one of the most successful and wealthy people in the world.
Yeah.
For that very reason. How many business owners in the world? How many could you think of?
Yeah, I mean, we went through quite a few there. I think obviously we spoke about Jeff Bezos, which is he owns
Amazon.
obviously Amazon, which is, I mean, he's a billionaire. We've got Warren Buffett.
Berkshire Hathaway started out, I can't remember, it was a textile manufacturer. Would you believe that?
Mm-hmm.
Now Berkshire Hathaway is worth billions. They don't have anything to do with that at all. It's like Sony. Sony first started out as a rice cooker maker. That's what they did.
It's come a long way.
Yeah. And all these 100 years ago or something like that, Sony started out as making rice cookers. And look at them now in technology. And it's just like Berkshire Hathaway started out doing something like textiles. And Warren Buffett was brought in to help the company survive. And he pivoted it to being an investment powerhouse as it is today.
Mm-hmm. But that's quite a good example about how things, I mean, everything has to start somewhere. Everything has to start small and progressively get big. And it needs the right input and the right time and things to do that. We just spoke about Elon Musk as well. Obviously, he's got Tesla and he's got the whole space thing on the go, and he's trying to buy Twitter at the moment. You'll probably seen that in the news.
Yeah.
And then Mark Zuckerberg, well, he's
getting a great amount of publicity for nothing out of that, isn't he?
Yes, it's everywhere.
And that's what people don't realise. It's the amount of publicity he's getting with his name every single time. The object of the exercise is to be known, not to be liked.
Yeah.
The person that attracts the most attention usually makes the most money.
Mm-hmm.
And look at the world. It's the people that have got the most attention are making the most money. Bezos, Buffett, Cardone, Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, all these different people.
Bill Gates as well, Jim. You've got some stories about Bill Gates that you've shared before. His story for starting off Microsoft and building that up as well.
A university dropout.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I'm not going to complete Harvard. I'm just going to drop out. Now, admittedly, at that time, Microsoft, he had complete faith and belief in himself that Microsoft was the way forward. And he knew that was the way forward to do that. And technically, I kind of followed his path because I'm an accountancy dropout. You know, I decided that accountancy was never where I wanted to specialize in. Although I'm an accountant and I was in industry as a financial director, I thought this isn't going to take me to the realms of where I want to go. Mm-hmm. It's like I'm literally going to be working for someone else for the rest of my life and actually be traveling the world as another CEO of a huge organization. And that was never the dream I envisaged for myself. I wanted to set myself free. Mm-hmm. And this is why I built the property empire, for that reason.
Your own financial freedom and use of your own time.
I mean, Larry Ellison, of Oracle as well, was another one. I mean, chances are that you won't see Warren Buffett approaching you in a gold chain and necklace, as we're saying, gold rings. There would be no £300,000 Lamborghini. In fact, Warren Buffett is known for being a really frugal billionaire, isn't he? It's like he lived in the same home in Nebraska. He first bought back in 1958. Even better, Warren Buffett splurges on a $3, a $4 breakfast that he has a McDonald's drive-through. He eats McDonald's. I watched thing the other day. He says, we're exactly the same as everybody else. We go to McDonald's. We then go to Target to get our clothes. His suit, I remember he wears a grey suit. It's the same grey suit every single time. And literally, it's $100 at Target. You know, he's no bother. But he owns shares in Target and he owns shares in other places, Sears Roebuck as well. And he shops at these places because he owns shares. He just looks at what he does, and his investment strategy is what is it things I use daily, day in, day out? And is this something that will multiply? So he loves the longevity and the compounding of wealth over time. And he doesn't like the get rich quick ideas. He says something that provides value and actually will be here in years to come, which will compound over time and increase in value over time. And as a dead cert is what I love. He loves that for that reason. Mm-hmm. So you see, being wealthy is a very different to being rich here. I mean, here's true wealth. You've got your health.
Yeah.
More importantly, you've got your freedom and you've got relationships. in the end, it's important to realize that money buys you time, which ultimately gives you freedom and happiness.
Yeah, that's quite interesting, that, because then I mean, everybody's heard it. Money can't buy you happiness, but it allows you the time to be happy rather than, like you say, being a slave to whatever, do you know what I mean, situation you're in with a work such scenario or things. You've got time back, you've got the freedom to manage your own life, spend more time with family and loved ones and things, which ultimately will make you happy. So if you look at it in the roundabout way like that, then that's the best way to look at it for me.
Yeah. I mean, bottom line, being wealthy, positive net worth, you spend less than you earn, and you have the time to do what you want to do when you want to do it in your life. That's what that comes down to. The difference between rich and wealthy, has to do with time, freedom, sustainability. A wealthy person has built sustainable, long-term wealth, which buys them time and freedom to do what they want to do. A rich person's money often does not last very long, and rich people often go into massive debt because they're flashy, glamorous lifestyle. Someone earning £80,000 a year could be wealthier than someone earning £500,000 a year. I'll say that again.
Yeah.
Somebody earning £80,000 a year could be wealthier than somebody earning £500,000 a year. It all comes down to how you spend your money, how much debt you build up, and how much money you actually save. The compounding effect. I used to jokingly say, my company, because it made a profit, and it was a small profit at the time, is more successful than some of the biggest PLCs in the world because they were making a loss.
Yeah. And in essence, that's true. Because you're making, whether it's a really, really small profit, if you're making a profit, it's better than the bigger companies that were making a loss. So
yeah,
I would agree with
that. What sort of things? Let's talk about rich versus wealth then. The differences then. What, Richard? What in your mind? What bullet points are?
For what we spoke about this morning, I think for me, being rich would be obviously someone who's often in debt or lives in debt.
Yeah.
They do earn a lot of money. They live flashy lifestyles, like we spoke about. They don't save, which is so important, and we've had, like I say, we've done shows on that previously. They spend a lot of money. They buy depreciating assets, which would be your Lamborghini and things. Yeah. They spend the money to impress, and they're not prepared for the long term. That's what I would take from being rich.
What about wealthy?
Wealthy would be building long-term wealth. I mean, wealthy builds long-term wealth. It buys appreciating assets, which, as we know, property and doing property investment typically does not have a lot of debt or have any debt. Living below your means, and like, I was going to use the word frugal, but then I suppose it fits.
People actually see that when they say live well below their means. When you talk about that, everybody goes, oh my God, why would I want to do that? But you've got to understand, you've been socially conditioned like this to spend.
And that's
you're bombarded every single day on here to spend on this thing. Every single time, spend. Instagram, spend. Every window you pass, spend. Every television advert you see, spend. That's what people want you to do because they want to attract your money. That's what the laws of attraction. They want to attract your money, so they advertise and market to attract you to their brand. So that's the type of things you've got to get around in your head in order to overcome that obstacle. What other things?
So living below your means, live a more understated lifestyle, and wealthy people may very well earn less than what a rich person does, but they spend not to impress others, and they save and invest a percentage of their income. And that's so important, I think, as well, as to save, and we've covered that previously, because that small percentage that you save will amass over time. And then allows you to then reinvest.
I mean, if you're truly wealthy, then your money will serve a specific purpose. I mean, for me personally, it's actually to save enough for a sustainable lifestyle. It's to save enough to retire.
Yeah.
early. And I know this sounds daft, but I retired 17 years ago. And everybody goes, but you're still working right now. You're still out being on a stage. And it's like, I love doing what I do
I
every
was just going to
single
say,
day.
you choose to do that.
And I have the
Actually.
option. Yeah. And that's what I love about what I do. I can say what I want as well without having any political ramifications, because it has no effect on me and my income. And that's what I always wanted in the beginning. The key things for me was never tangible. It was never cars. It was never things. It was never Gucci, Versace, or anything like that. What I wanted in the very beginning when I first started out is I wanted my time back, because I wanted to spend it where I wanted to spend it, and I wanted to have the freedom to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And I know that sounds almost the same, but there's a slight difference here. To do what you want to do when you want to do it and have the choice to do that is almost everybody's, and I would argue it's everybody's desire. Now, some people would say, I used to get people to say to me, oh, I never want to be wealthy or rich. And I went, and my first response was, have you tried it lately? Because I'll tell you what, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's like some people say, you see people, obviously these ridiculous lottery totals that people win now, and they're like, oh, I wouldn't like to win all that money, and it's like, well, why not? But as long as you do the right thing with it. We've seen a lot of people win the lottery and
My point in case, I would love to win that amount of money so I can give it away.
Yeah.
Because that's the reality.
And
people say, oh, I don't really want to do that because I don't. Well, I tell you what, going out and earn it anyway and then give it to somebody that needs it. There's a novel idea. Yeah. Go out and help someone else. Could you imagine what type of society we would have if your main aim in society was to help another person?
If only everybody was so selfless to do something like that, then it would be a very different society over it.
And to have enough to live without money worries. Yeah. There's a very important phrase that I remembered very early on from my mentors. There's only so much money you can make, and the rest is just for show. How much more do you need? I had a conversation with someone the other day on Thursday, actually. Says, well, what are you doing the weekend? I went, oh, I'm going down to London. I'm going to see Coldplay and that. And he says, oh, and we talked about investments as well. And says, oh, what will you be doing next? And will you be investing in this? And will you be making more of this and make more of that? And I told him how much I've got. And I went, and he just went, what? I went, how much more do I need? How much more do I need? I don't need any more than that. No. It's like, it's obscene. It's like, but that's why, and if I was wanting it, I would want it and then just give it away. It's like, great, I could make it. I'll just give it away to somebody that really needs it. And that comes back to Born Free. So this sticks with my mind as well. This is when Tony went to Born Free, about in the animal sanctuaries with the lions and the tigers and everything.
Yeah.
And Tony really wanted to work with Born Free. And she approached Born Free and it said at the time, look, I tell you what, I really want to be on your reserve working and all the rest of it. This is the type of life I want. I want to help out. And Born Free said, actually, you're going to be training to be an accountant, aren't you? And it says, absolutely, I'm training to be an accountant. I'm good. This is what I'm going to do. It says, well, to be honest, we would rather you actually went to work in industry and actually then gave us the money that you could earn working in industry. That's what they said to her. They said to her, we can get volunteers 10 a penny. It's like everybody wants to come and volunteer here. Everyone wants to have this lifestyle and have this carefree thing about it. But we need money to do what we do. You can't just have everybody helping out. We need money to help the animals. The best way you can serve us is to go out and earn as much as you can and help us out with as much money as you can give. And that's interesting. Yeah. So I would say that these purposes were probably some of the good reasons why I wanted to do what I wanted to do. I even equally as well, I just wanted to be able to. Could you imagine? It's like another story. Here's another class, and this sticks in my mind. And it was Jerry Scriven that actually said this, and I remember Jerry talking about this. Jerry was extremely successful. I mean, Jerry helped people retire at 25-year-old, financially free, never at work again. And Jerry was very, very successful. In actual fact, he gave money away to have a gorilla sanctuary on, I think it's Guernsey or something like that. He actually opened it all and paid for it all in his father's name. So Jerry actually said to me, he says, Jim, I know you're into your sports. I know you love doing what you're doing at the time and you're wanting to do extracurricular activities, but is that providing anything towards your financial future? And I said, well, you know, I enjoy it. He says, but he says, could you imagine you've got a young daughter, eh? And I went, yeah, absolutely. He says, could you imagine your daughter? What's her name? Tony. Could you imagine Tony in 20 years' time coming to you and says, Dad, look, I tell you what, Dad, I want to go to university. And then you going, have I got the money for it? Well, maybe I can't afford to send you to university because I don't think we can afford the fees. And he said, what do you think is going to save you? I mean, you can't really take her over to your trophy cabinet and say, well, but look at all the trophies I won when I was younger. And the time that I could have spent building a financial future, I chose to actually spend it on, you know, playing darts to win a trophy at the pub.
Yeah.
And stuff. And that's how harsh he was with me in the beginning. For me, it was tough love.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the type of things he said to me. You know, your trophies aren't going to help you later on. Your darts league and your Quest drive and your dominoes trophies is like, that's just not going to help you at all. It says, if you really want to build your financial future, you need to take that time right now and put it into it, because that time will compound out in the end to make you extremely successful in years to come, extremely wealthy. And I mean, really wealthy. He says that'll compound. And I never understood what he meant by that at that time until I am where I am now. And I've no by any sense reached where I want to reach anyway. But it's an astronomical leap from where I was before. And when you get there, you don't actually realize how far you've come.
Mm-hmm.
You become almost numb to that, because it's you expected it to happen. You had it in your mind. You dreamt it. And when you get there, you actually, it's no different. You don't go like Robbie Williams did and goes, I've signed a $66 million contract. I'm rich. You don't do that. You don't do that at all. You actually just get there and go, okay, what's next?
I'm here. What's next, yeah? Because
you've programmed yourself to it. You believed it and you've achieved it. And it's like, okay, great. What's next then? So that's why you don't see people like Elon Musk and Zuckerberg.
Because it's not an end point. It's just part of the journey.
It's part of the journey, but you've dreamed it will happen. And you've had great belief it will happen. So you get there and you don't actually, you just go, okay, then what's my next goal? Mm-hmm. And then you move on from there. And that's what it is. So I'll be honest, we actually saved, I would literally say, around about 80% of our income every single time, and I invested.
I think savings is a big aspect and a really important part of it.
I still do it right
not
now.
To spend and save.
I still do it right now, but then that's what comes back. People often say, "Well, why would you not enjoy it now?" It's like, but I don't want to build a legacy as well. I wanted to pass to my generational wealth to my family and their family and their family and their family, and actually follow these people because they'll realize what I've done. If it doesn't happen, it's what I wanted. It's the thing I wanted. I wanted to be able to, you know, if I had something wrong, well, my knee, for example, I talked about this before, you know, if anything happened to my knee or my body or anything like that, I wouldn't have to wait on going through a whole waiting list and 2 years down the line to get a hip replacement. I could just go private and get it done. Mm-hmm. These are the intrinsic things I wanted, and it wasn't really material. It was just I wanted to be able to look after myself and my extended family. If my sister ever wanted something done, I was able to give her the money to do it. If my daughter wanted something done, I was able to give her money to do it. If my dad and my mum and all the rest that wanted, I was able to give them the money to do it. That's the only thing that really mattered to me. If my community needed something, see that? I was able to provide the money to do it. That's why we're doing what we do now. We're going to hit 30,000 this year towards community and local causes. And that's the whole reason for doing what we're doing. So I don't necessarily need that. I don't want it. It's like I'll make it and just give it to someone who will benefit. It's better for them. It's better going, you know, your money and you. Oh well, I'm not going to do that. Well, go and do it and give it to the food bank, because I tell you what, a lot of people are going to need it soon.
Yeah, I know.
So rich people spend a lot of money and they often go into debt. Wealthy people, on their hand, spend less than they earn and invest and save for the long-term future, more sustainable wealth. You can see that in successive shows that we've done before on the playlist on here. Just click on it and go back, and you can see all these different things about compounding and how you can do that. Wealthy people typically build their wealth by investing in real estate. Some of them invest in the stock market. You know, I still have my pension in the stock market. It's the FTSE 100. It tracks that. Everybody's going, stock market's falling. And I'm like, I'm looking at the FTSE 100 and it's sitting at 7.5 now, and it's never fallen yet. And I tell you what, when the FTSE 100 dropped to 3.2, I was in there like a bat out of hell.
Yeah.
It's like buying at 3,200 because I knew fine it would double, you know, within a couple of years again anyway. And so that's when the market's going down, I'm buying. When the market's going up, I'm possibly looking to sell or I'm holding. That's it, really, to capitalize on it. And there's no point in looking for the peak of the market. We might talk about this in successive shows about when do you exit and when do you enter into the markets. That's maybe another really good subject to actually do. If anybody out there is listening in and you want us to talk about a specific subject, then we're more than happy to consider it. So just stick it in the comments or send us a message direct.
Yeah, it's good to hear the feedback and what to talk about.
There is other things to talk about. I mean, we'll maybe talk about this in another show, how to become wealthy and 7 actionable steps to do that. But we'll save that for another show, won't we? Finalisation on this, Richard.
Yeah, I think my takeaway today is that there is such big differences between being rich and being wealthy. And these the 7 actionable steps you were talking about will be quite a good one to cover in another show. Because that really hones in on the areas where you should be concentrating to become wealthy. But I think most importantly, which I took from today, is that like your buy-to-let, have a business set up, and that will help you become financially free and be wealthy and have that cash flow and income to allow you to do other things and enjoy life a lot more, I think.
Yeah. Now, we discussed about most business owners, 66% of them are actually business owners, the millionaires today, and it's possibly even higher right now. But not everybody can run a business, and not everybody can understand how to run a business. So that's why you buy into a business with other people that can do that. That's the key there. That's why you own part of 5 properties now, for that very reason. Because if you're an owner, then you will share in that wealth as well when it's built over a period of time. As the share value goes up, you might not necessarily get more income out of that. You might do. Well, you got dividends out of that, and I did as well recently. And that was really good. But the value of the intrinsic value of the property, the actual asset as well, and the company goes up in value as well. So if there is an exit strategy in the future, therefore you still benefit from that as well, from that exit strategy. And for me, that's why people should try and invest in the company they work with in order to prosper as a result in the future for that reason. Okay, that's us. Fine. So, and that's it, guys. Again, I'll go back to saying we'll see you next week on the Wealth Creation Show. We'll be talking about another exciting subject and talking about another way to develop yourself. And until next week, guys, bye-bye from us.
See you later.